let us look into the basic concept of wildlife and biodiversity. First, wildlife. Now, when man first appeared on planet Earth, in those times, the whole world was wild. So that's simple. The distinction between what is wild and what is not, it first arose with the advent of civilization. When man first mastered the art of taming the animals and then domesticating them. So with the advent of civilization, when civilizations came in, man, he mastered the art how to tame the animals and how to domesticate them to serve his own purpose. As a result, the species for which he was not directly responsible, that is, the species which he was not taming, which he was not domesticating, they were hunted by the men and they became wild for him. Fine. So it's simple. That is, the distinction between wild and domesticated first arose with the advent of civilization when man started taming and domesticating animals. To a common man, if we ask a layman or a common person today, what he will say is that wildlife is all that he gets to see in the forests. That is, all animals that are there in the forests, they are wild according to a layman today. Generally, the term wildlife includes the sum total of the animals and plants found all over the planet Earth. Fine. So all the animals, all the plants, all the microbes which are found all over the planet Earth, excluding, or we might say that there are exceptions. And what are the exceptions? Wildlife does not include the domesticated animals. Fine. The first animal to be domesticated by man was probably goat, and then sheep came in. And today it is estimated that around more than 40 animals are domesticated, and excluding plants which are grown for human purpose. Fine. So, in a recent paper, it has been stated that around 35,000 plants are cultivable. So, the plants which are grown for human purpose, and we leave out the domestic animals. So, excluding these, the sum total of all animals on plants over the planet Earth means wild animals or wildlife. So, mosquito, definitely, we do not domesticate mosquito, it is wild. Turtles, we do not domesticate, generally do not domesticate turtles, so they are wild. Banyan tree, it is not cultivated at least, so it is wild. Now, that being said, the official definition of wildlife as given by Government of India, that is stated in the Wildlife Protection Amendment Act of 2002. Now, initially, the Wildlife Protection Act was passed in 1972, and after that, there have been six amendments to the Act. And we are picking up the main definition which was stated in Wildlife Protection Amendment Act 2002. It states that wildlife is what? It is any animal, aquatic or land vegetation which forms part of any habitat. So wildlife may be any animal. When we are saying aquatic or land vegetation, what we mean to say is that the flora and fauna which form part of any habitat they are treated to be wildlife. Now, what does animal mean? And the various terms in the definition, they have been clarified by the Act itself. So, according to the provisions of the Act, animal includes what? It includes mammals, birds, reptiles, amphibian, fish and other vertebrates, and invertebrates. So basically chordates and non-chordates, and it also includes their young and eggs. Fine. So by including the young ones and the eggs also within the term animal, these also are provided protection by the Act. Habitat includes land, water, vegetation, which is the natural home of any wild animal. Fine. So the place where an animal is found in nature, fine, that has been defined as the habitat of the animal. Now this is important. Wild animal means any animal specified in schedules 1 to 4. Now, there are 6 schedules appended to the Wildlife Act. Appended means they are on the back side of the Wildlife Act. 6 schedules are there, and these are what? These are lists of animals and plants. Schedules are basically what? They are lists of animals and plants. Now, Schedule 1 and 2, the animals which are included in Schedule 1 and 2 are given the maximum protection by Government of India, and the penalty for any crime against these animals is the maximum. Fine. Animals and plants which are listed in Schedules 3 and 4, fine, the level of protection accorded to them, or the level of protection given to them, is lesser than the level of protection which is accorded to the animals which are there in the first 2 schedules. Fine. And the penalty for crime is also on a lesser scale than the penalty for crime against the animals listed in Schedule 1 and Schedule 2. Schedule 5 is basically vermin. Vermin is what? What do we mean by vermin? Vermin means any animals which are economically hazardous to mankind, or they may be the carriers of diseases to mankind, to farm animals, or they may be carriers of diseases. So generally common crow, rats, mice, they are included under Schedule 5, and they may be hunted. Fine, there is no regulation, no control. That is, there's no penalty if we hunt these animals. Schedule 6 is a list of certain plants, and these plants cannot be propagated under domestication. That is, we cannot pick those plants from the wild, we cannot propagate the plants ourselves, and there is restriction on the sale of these plants. So there are 6 schedules or lists of animals and plants which are on the back side of the Wildlife Protection Act, and they are revised from time to time to increase the ambit, to increase the total number of animals and plants which are included out there. And schedule for to be a wild animal, what the Act says is that, say, it has to be listed in Schedule 1, 2, 3, or 4, and it should be found in wild in nature. Land includes canals, creeks, fine, and other water channels, reservoirs, rivers, streams and lakes, whether artificial or natural marshes and wetlands, and also includes boulders and rocks. So, what is the meaning of land under the Act? It includes canals, creeks, all different types of water bodies, as well as the boulders and rocks. So, if we look as to how wildlife is defined according to the Wildlife Protection Act, the definition is a very broad one and includes both flora and fauna. There are 6 schedules appended to the text of WPA containing a list of species protected by it. That is what we have talked of right now. Schedule 1 and 2 are the most endangered or threatened animals of India. Fine. The most endangered or threatened animals are listed in Schedule 1 and 2. Now, interestingly, as per provisions of the Act, it is essential that for any animal to be categorized as wild animal, it has to satisfy 2 criteria. So according to the Act, if we are going to say that a particular animal is wild, it has to satisfy 2 criteria, and what are they? It has to be listed in Schedule 1 to 4 of Wildlife Protection Act. So Schedule 1 to 4 offers protection to the animals, and the animal has to be listed in Schedule 1 to 4. Secondly, the said animal must be found in wild in nature. Not only has its name to be there in any of the schedules from 1 to 4, but it should also be found in wild in nature. Now, this brings up many interesting situations. Mongoose found in a city, it is wildlife. Since it is listed in Part 2 of Schedule 2 of the Act, fine, it is not domesticated and it is found in wild in nature. Fine. So mongoose in a city is wildlife because it is listed in the Act and it is also found in wild in nature. Domestic dog found in a forest, even a protected area, is not considered wildlife since it is not listed in any of the schedules and also it is not found in wild in nature. In national parks and sanctuaries, these are the protected areas. Sorry, all wildlife, irrespective of whether they are mentioned in Schedule 1 or not, are protected. Fine. Say, if we look into the Wildlife Protection Act, it generally recognizes 4 or 5 main types of protected areas, which are listed within the Act, which have got legal sanction within the Act. These are national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, conservation reserves, community reserves, and marine protected areas. Fine. Of these, within national parks and sanctuaries, all animals which are found, all wildlife which are found are protected, whether or not their names come up within the 4 schedules. A domestic elephant, now that's an interesting issue, falls in the wildlife category since the animal is listed in Schedule 1, most highly protected, and it is also found in nature. Fine, so that will be considered as wildlife. Over and above that, an elephant which has born in captivity from a domestic elephant has been born in captivity. According to the Act, according to the meaning of the Act, it will also be considered as wildlife. So the basic criteria is simple. It has to be listed in the schedules. It is definitely listed in Schedule 1, and we get wild populations of elephants in nature. So that is why an elephant, even if it is born in captivity, will also be considered wildlife, and the same rules which apply to the elephants under in nature reserves will apply to the domestic elephant also. Rules of protection. Now biodiversity. Now biodiversity has traditionally been defined as the variety and variability among the living organisms. What is the variety of living organisms that we encounter, and what is the variability that is to be found within the variety that we are talking of? One of the best definitions was given by the Convention on Biological Diversity, fine, CBD, Rio de Janeiro in 1992. What it says is that the variability among living organisms from all sources, variability which is to be found within living organisms from all sources, what is it? We are coming to it, including inter alia, means among other things, terrestrial, marine, and other aquatic ecosystems. So first we are talking of the different ecosystems, whether the ecosystems be terrestrial or they may be marine or maybe other freshwater ecosystems, and the ecological complexes of which they are a part. Now ecosystems are a part of which ecological complexes? Say these are the levels of organization within the biological kingdom: organism of one species combining to form population, populations combining to form community, community when it interacts with the abiotic environment, it forms the ecosystem, different ecosystems combine to form landscapes, landscapes combine to form biomes, and ultimately we have the biosphere. So ecosystem is a part of which ecological complexes? Well, it is a part of landscape, it is a part of biome, or it may be a part of biosphere. So that is one issue. And the second is that this includes diversity within species. What is the diversity that we are going to find within the species, between the species, and of ecosystems? Fine. So what is the diversity that we find within species, between species, and of ecosystems? What does this mean? Let us try to explain. So the first issue is what? Wildlife. This we have already defined. Fine. And along with that, we have domestic animals. Fine. So we combine both these two. What we get is species diversity. Say within wildlife, we may include all the five kingdoms, fine, and then along with that we have the domestic animals, and these two together these two together are clarified or point out as to what is the total species diversity found over the planet Earth. Now this is just the starting point. Now wildlife, a particular species, we know may have subspecies or it may have different races. Now, races is a word that is generally used with respect to the subspecies of birds, etc. Now, those species which do not have subspecies, they are known as monotypic species. Those species which are composed of many subspecies, they are called polytypic species. Say, for example, we have the case of long-tailed shrike, Lanius cat. It's a common bird, and 9 subspecies are found within Lanius skak. 9 subspecies are found. Similarly, if we look into the domestic variety that we have varieties or there may be breeds. Right? Within the domestic animals and plants, we may have varieties and we also have breeds. Now, if we talk of rice alone, fine, it is today estimated that there are 40,000 varieties of rice which are found in India. Now, rice, if we talk of species, then definitely it is only one species, Oryza sativa. Shrike, only one species, Linnaeus cat, but then there is variability within the species. That is why we are finding the subspecies, and there is variability within the single species of rice or Rhiza sativa. That is why we are finding 40,000 varieties of rice in India. So this diversity that we are talking of, say, is known as genetic diversity. It is known as genetic diversity. That is the diversity to be found or the variability to be found within the species, whether they are wild or they are domesticated in nature. Next issue is that the wildlife, the wild animals and the domestic animals, they are parts of specific ecosystems. Fine. To make it very simple, say giraffe is not found in Assam and one-horned rhinoceros is not found in Africa. So each animal particularly is representative of a particular ecosystem. Each wild animal is representative of a particular ecosystem. And if we combine all the ecosystems that are present on or to be found in the planet Earth, they build up the ecosystem diversity. Now, if we add these three up, then what we get is known as biodiversity. So, biodiversity is the variety and the variability within the species as well as the ecosystems in which they are found. That is why three components of biodiversity are generally distinguished. And what are they? Ecosystem diversity, species diversity, and genetic diversity. Thank you.